Hey, hon, come check out these birds. It's kind of hilarious.
Are you just laughing at mating corvids?
No. Look closer. They're not humping. They're just sort of stuck together, back to back. Look at that one's got his legs up in there.
Huh. What in the world?
You know what I think it is?
What?
I think they're Velcros. Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnet Dale.
And I'm not Jane Aerith Magnet Dale, and welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast where two queer trans women, that's us, we're wifey types, have a bit of a silly catch-up with some silly voices and skits, and just generally, what are we being into media in the week? We do
on non-tasty media.
Yeah, how you doing?
Oh, I'm a sleepy little bean.
Yeah.
We did a social at the weekend, and catching up a little bit from that.
Yeah.
But, yes. How are you doing?
I wrote many words today.
You did. You even did a stream of writing words.
I did a stream of writing words last night, and then I wrote more words today. I wrote many words.
So many words.
I'm trying to do the thing where I like prep all the work for the festive period so that I can take some time off. That requires doing more than the usual work, which is sleepy inducing.
Yep. If you want to take time off to dance with the unicorns, then
I gotta buckle down now.
Buckles?
Yeah.
Little buckles. Want to buckle my shoe.
So, stuff we've done this week. Playing. You
Playing.
played anything this week?
I guess I can say I kind of played one thing that's new.
Yeah.
I have played some more Wall World, haven't got a lot to say about it, apart from the fact that I seem to have reached a point I cannot progress past, which is a bit frustrating.
Yeah.
But the only really the new thing I have played, and I said that weirdly, but there we go, a game called While the Iron's Hot, which I believe you talked about on Podquisition last week.
Yes, I heard about this from Conrad last week. It sounds pretty interesting. It's a sort of blacksmithing game, right?
Yeah, you are a young, hopeful wannabe blacksmith. I called my character Jack Smith, the wannabe blacksmith, who dreams of going to this island where there is like a big city and all the blacksmiths, and oh my goodness, it's perfect for all your blacksmithing needs. And you start off on a little pirate ship, and you're basically taught the controls, and next thing you know, the ship fucking explodes.
Oh no!
And you wake up on the shores of the place where you were going, and you are found by a person who happens to be a former blacksmith who lost an arm and then sort of lost a lot of their hopes for life. But now they see you, a young person who can be moulded, kind of like you're forging something, into a new blacksmith and perhaps start a new age of smithery upon the island. Yeah, the art style kind of reminds me of indie horror game Home.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that sort of like low pixel, slightly outlined characters. Something about the animation style as well, and the sort of particular way the characters are shaped very much remind me of that game. I don't know what specifically it is about it, but I that is what I am most reminded of. Yeah, it's got some charm to it. It's a lovely idea.
Yeah.
There's a few problems, I guess. There are things that don't feel like great gameplay options. Like, you can set all of your ore, like, you might have 100+ ore, and you can just chuck it in the furnace to melt into ingots. And you can either just leave it, or you can do a mini game to like pump the bellows, and potentially get more out of the ore that you've put in there than you would have otherwise done. Potential for like doubling up on every time you do a like hit the multiplier in just the right place. But then you've got things like the grindstone. It's like, well, you picked the thing you want to grind, and you grind one of those things. You have an option for like pinning recipes, so they'll just stay on screen permanently, which is great while you're in the forge. It's like, okay, I need to make a hammer, so I need some ingots. Then I need to smelt this many or craft this many ingots into this particular shape. Then I need to take that over to the grindstone. but you can only, like, if you need to make, like, a bunch of, like, 2x2 plates, you can only make one at a time.
Okay.
If you need to do a bunch of grinding, you can only grind one thing at a time. And it's weird, because it says, like, grind one. And it's like, some control, maybe, to grind more than one. And maybe something else will unlock later, but it does feel a bit like, come on! Especially when you've got things like a pickaxe. It's like, okay, make some, like, 2x1 curved bits. And then you've got to take them over to the grindstone to grind both of those individually. Also, unless you have a bonus, there's a potential for making, like, not as quality stuff. And the more quality your product is, the higher, the more money you'll get out of it. There's a whole thing where the villagers, once you've sort of got them on side, will, like, constantly give you quests. And there's never really a point where it's the villagers say, we're going to stop generating you random quests because you've probably got enough money to start proceeding with things. So you can sort of get stuck in a loop. It's like, well, they still want things. I'll just go and make some more things.
You can't be like I often am in games and be a completionist where I'm like, I'm going to do absolutely everything before I move to the next place.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you have to accept that there are some things that are wanted that you're not going to do.
Yeah. So, yeah, there is that. There's a few little things. The whole crafting thing. So obviously, like, you've got the ingots, you just shove them in the thing. Then you've got, like, a little, like, timed button press thing with the hammer on the anvil. And then with the sharpening thing, it's like, again, like timed button presses in up, down, left, right. To grind in the correct directions, I guess. And then the assembly table is like a crafting table in Minecraft.
Yeah.
You've got, like, a little 3x3 grid. You've got to put the things in the right shape and then, like, hold down a button to forge them into the correct item. Which, after a while, gets kind of tedious, but I don't know if that's because I've been making too much of the same things because the villagers keep being like, what's it, do the thing?
So, having not played it, I'm going off of a, like, 2-week-old remembering of someone else talking about it, but I think the way Conrad talked about it was, like, it has certain things that are, like, a little grindy and repetitive to do over and over, and then you progress a little bit, and then it's like, oh, that thing that was previously the thing sort of slowing you down, oh, here's a way to just, like, do way more of that at once, and, like, that's no longer the thing slowing you down, something else is. Like, I think the example he gave was, like, having to travel between towns is, like, a thing that takes up time, and then eventually they're just like, oh yeah, we've made that be a barrier to you for long enough now, you've just got fast travel. And, like, things like that where, like, the grind exists and then the grind will become something new and the old thing is no longer such a grind.
Yeah, there was a point that I didn't quite... Maybe I didn't catch it properly and maybe I'll have to, like, read back through the tutorials. At one point, you're told that your mentor has built a mailbox and this will be, like, a way of getting paid by the villagers. But, like, okay, but can I send them the goods they want through the mailbox? There doesn't seem to be an option for that. So I still have to take them to the things to them, at which point they pay me, so I don't really understand what the mailbox is for, unless I just haven't unlocked it. I have found a nice cow. Or an ox, I say. It's a big friendly ox. I helped the ox get released from the carriage that it was sort of stuck to and abandoned with, and we spent the night by a little campfire together and had a nice time, and now I have an ox friend back at my forge. Yeah, I think I want to play more of it. I'm curious about it. The art style's kind of adorable. The characters are really kind of fascinating in some cases. It doesn't always make itself super clear as to what to do and what is necessary or not. Sometimes a villager will ask for a particular thing, and that will automatically come with a recipe for how to make that thing. But other times it's like, well, you've accepted this quest, but no one's going to tell you how to make a skillet.
Yes.
But each of the quest rewards for handing something in is like a lot of them are like, there might be a recipe in it for this. Like, well, I guess I keep doing them until I've unlocked all the recipes.
And my understanding is you can sort of guess from logic how to do some recipes. Like, I think Conrad was talking about, like, I've got, like, an axe, and someone wants a hatchet, and it's like, well, maybe I make it with one less piece of wood, so it's got a shorter handle.
Okay, I didn't know you could just guess at stuff. I assumed you had to have a recipe.
As I understand it, you don't have to have the recipe to make it. If you can guess, like, oh, I make it like this item, but I make this change to it, it might result in a new thing.
Okay. Well, that's just a whole extra thing, huh? Oh my goodness. Yeah, leaves a whole bunch of extra questions that need answering, I suppose. Yeah, I need to play more of it. I did a couple of hours on stream last Thursday. Had fun. Twitch.tv/Janiac, Janiac, come say hello. Yeah, it was a fun experience and something nice to be like, I don't know what to play on a Thursday night that is actually going to run well on stream. Because I think we should probably talk about the thing that you are currently playing.
What? I don't know what you mean. I'm giving 1,000% of my attention to the podcast.
You are.
In my defense, playing is a loose word. I have a game running on my lap right now.
You do.
Yeah, so there's some new content in Vampire Survivors.
There sure is.
So there was an update that went live, I think it was on the 6th or the 8th of December, that made available the first 3 adventures. 2 of them are for the base game, so if you just own Vampire Survivors, you get them for free. One of them is for one of the DLCs, I think it was the Legacy of Moonspell.
I would guess so, based on the title.
Yeah, and the gist of these is that they are short, standalone little campaigns, kind of, that remix content from the base game with a few new little bits thrown in, but they're largely about, hey, do you want to have the progression of playing from the start of Vampire Survivors again, where you are, like, unlocking your power-ups and unlocking characters and that whole kind of progression, but with a more limited item pool to actually force you to use stuff you don't usually use, particularly in the early levels, and a little bit of narrative threading to sort of pull it all together. Is that a good way to explain it?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good way to play it. And also, for anyone who hasn't, 100%ed the campaign already, for completing the adventures, you will get some cash that will just be fed straight back into your campaign.
And I'm curious if the amount of cash increases when you prestige the adventures.
No, it doesn't.
No, that's fair. Do you get paid the payout when you redo the adventure anyway?
Yeah, so as soon as you hit Ascend, you'll get the payout of, I think for the first one it's 35,000.
Okay, and that's consistent through prestiges.
That has been so far, as far as I've noticed.
But yeah, you can sort of prestige them and go, hey, I'm going to do this again, and I have little points to spend to sort of modify this playthrough of the adventure.
Yeah, so the points you get little, I think they're just called Ascension points.
Yeah.
And you can spend them on increasing your luck, your money, your experience. I can't remember what the last thing is, but there are four separate categories. Each point is worth 25% bonus in that.
Yeah.
And you can respec at any time, which is quite interesting. So if you happen to be doing a run, at the start of the run, it's if I was making more money, I would be able to buy more of the between level power-ups more quickly. But now I've reached sort of just over the halfway point. Money's not the most important thing, so I'll just pivot to experience.
That is really nice, yeah.
But yeah, or you can just leave them in there permanently.
It is nice having an excuse to not have to scrap your main profile to be able to have that experience of progression again, and to specifically be thrown in with such a limited starting selection, because the very first one of those campaigns is centered around Poe, who uses the garlic.
One of your favourite
characters.
One
of my favourites. And the thing that, it took me a minute to realise was, I've accepted every weapon that has been offered to me, and I don't have a full row of weapons or a full row of accessories.
At which point you were offered the candy box. And so was I. And we both had the same experience.
Yeah, we opened the candy box and there was nothing in it, because we had all the weapons and items already.
Yep.
It starts you with a very limited pool, and it's you are going to use this 2/3 of a build, and, you will get opportunities to spec it out a little bit beyond that, but fundamentally, this is the core of how you're going to be playing this set of adventure content. Go!
Yeah, and eventually you will find characters just lurking around in the levels who will sell you extra items that you've unlocked already in the base game. So again, you probably play this pretty much any time. I don't know if there's any specific unlock criteria based on the base game.
For the base game ones, and I know this because I've been replaying through on a fresh save file Vampire Survivors on Game Pass. To get access to the base game ones, you have to have. I think you have to have beaten Capella Magna that first time. I don't think you have to have done everything in version 1.0. You don't have to have gotten Queen Sigma or done a lot of the secret characters, but you have to have beaten the sort of amalgam death at
The Ender.
The Ender, that's the one. I think that's when they unlock.
Okay.
But the Legacy of Moonspell one, you don't have to have done anything in Legacy of Moonspell, or even like if you've like not even touched the game, but you buy Legacy of Moonspell, you'll have access to that adventure straight away in theory.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, once you've got them, they're just a thing that's there.
Yeah, I think as more content has been added to the base game, doing a completely fresh run through of everything becomes less and less appealing. Like at the point 1.0 was released, like I think I had already done like 2, maybe 3 complete restarts, or as much as I was able to do, scrubbing as much of my save as possible with the abilities I
prior
had.
to the erase my data button.
It was surprisingly resilient, and I could never work out quite which bits I needed to be deleting, so I often ended up keeping my money, but like losing everything else. And obviously as more and more content, especially with the DLCs as well.
Yeah.
Like, I don't necessarily know that I want to keep having to do all of Legacy of Moonspell. The other one, like, I would happily do over and over again.
Forest of Foscari.
Yeah, I love Foscari. Moonspell, like, there's some really interesting stuff, and I think it was a fascinating first map, but it's not my favourite.
It's interesting. Like, I've gone through, like, all the base game content and, like, done the whole playthrough on multiple platforms. Steam, Switch, mobile. Like, I've gone through it, like, multiple times, going through it again now, and I'm like...
You've also done it on Game Pass, so you've got 2 separate PC saves.
Well, that's it. And then, I mean, this is, in theory, Xbox save as well, it carries, but it's... Yeah, I'm feeling like... Adventure. In part it was because I was like playing around with the Legion Go at the time, and part because I was like, I want to know when the game like naturally would introduce you to adventures.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like adventures is going to be the thing that scratches that itch going forward. Like, I don't think I want to restart the full game and the DLCs again. I think, and the fact that we know that like the next DLC that's coming also comes with an adventure, and I feel like that's probably going to be fairly standard going forward, is I suspect most of the DLCs will be here's an adventure.
I mean, I'm constantly impressed they keep adding more stuff. It seems like we're getting 10 more characters.
Yeah, and like 20 new weapons or something in that.
An adventure, a whole new map.
Yeah, so that's the thing. If each new like DLC is like, here's a bunch of new content to play through on your main save, but also an adventure like that's a bit of a repeatable thing,
yeah,
I think that's going to really help lessen the desire to go, I'll just throw everything away and start again.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like, occasionally that desire to like do a version, like an untouched version of the base game might occur, but I think for the most part, this is going to scratch the itch. It's quite interesting having like the whole story thing there, because the level description have changed. So, like, we talked about the fact that the first one is specifically around Poe. Like, the first level is like here's a bit of backstory of Poe remembering a thing. And then it's, like, moving on from there. Then there's quite an interesting, like, remixed, like, using assets from Mad Forest, but it's like a big hedge maze that you wander around.
Yeah, and eventually working towards... Poe's dream is to just stand in a field eating garlic eventually, and
tasty garlic.
What could that mean? Surrounded by garlic-filled trees.
Yeah, there's some really interesting stuff they've done with this. Also, I don't know when the new character arrived. I think it was part of this.
I believe so.
Update.
Yeah.
Also, so there's a new character for the base game to find.
Yeah.
Which has been fun because that character comes with my favorite weapon. As default, so yay. You've... How much of Adventures have you done so far? Because we did a whole run-through on one of them.
Yeah, so I did Poe by myself, that first base game one. We co-opted through the second base game one the other day. I've played around a little bit with the third one, the DLC one, for the... Moonspell. That one feels like a considerably more difficult hurdle to enter. And I think that makes sense because it's DLC and it's sort of expected that you are someone who has played the shit out of Vampire Survivors already and is looking for more if you buy the DLC, probably.
Also, some of those characters are very difficult to start from scratch with.
Yeah, I said this to you at the time, and I maintain it's true. I think a lot of the Moonspell weapons are great weapons to have in a build.
Oh yeah.
Some of them are very difficult to start a build with.
100%. Yeah.
They are wonderful. Like, a lot of them are wonderful area of effect for doing general damage.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are very hard to target a very specific incoming threat with.
Yeah.
And that lack of precision targeting makes for difficult early runs.
Yes, at least until you can get multiples from Moonspell. To start with, I can't remember who it is. I think it's one of the characters from Moonspell. One of the missions is kill 100,000 enemies in a single run.
Yeah.
And whichever character that is, I can't remember.
Yeah.
They are really hard to start the game with, especially if you are like running a late game save where you've already got maxed out curse, maxed out the thing that puts extra enemies on the screen.
Yeah.
You can literally toggle those off without having to do a full reset, but it's surprising that like pretty much any other character I can go, even Poe, I can go on most levels. Okay, I can start, and Poe is another one who doesn't really have a super strong start.
I mean,
but that character
I love Poe as a start. I think Poe does great for starts usually.
Yeah, I think maybe that's just the fact that you've got super used to it because you played with both Poe.
I like running around in circles so that the aura just kind of grazes enemies. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the adventure content is a nice additional way to play that game.
Oh hell yeah!
And I'm very glad that they're not just trying to add more content on top, but going, here's new ways to interface with what we've already built.
Yeah, and maybe that is partly to do with the number of people who seem to, like me, be just like going, I want to restart from the beginning. And it's like, what if we gave you that experience but in a slightly different way? And I think that's really fascinating. The story idea is fun and silly, especially with the whole garlic behaviour on Poe's part.
Oh, such garlic behaviour.
Such garlic behaviour. And Imelda's thing about going on a mission against heaven and hell.
Yes. Yeah. It's good. I'm glad to have more stuff to do in Vampire Survivors, and we've barely scratched through this, and there's about to be DLC. So, woo!
I mean, I've prestiged twice both of the first two adventures. I've still got that Moonspell one to do. I'm still catching up on like a couple of like little unlocks that I hadn't done on my most recent complete reset of the game. From DLC stuff, weirdly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very excited to be playing more Vampire Survivors and having more excuses to dive back into Vampire Survivors.
Hurrah.
But I will probably not reinstall it on my phone because that shit is dangerous.
I understand. If you want some company to try and co-op that Moonspell one, we can see if two people makes it any easier.
Yeah, and that was another nice thing, like finding that you could co-op the adventures.
Yeah. And it unlocks a few characters, and you might get access to a slightly larger weapon pool as a result because of that, because you can start with a character who has a weapon that's not in the default starting pool and that.
Yeah, I think as long as you, like, maybe even just play a game with them, it seems like that's enough in some cases.
Yeah, at the very least, it does the base game thing of you have access to at least 4 characters so that co-op has some choice, and
yes,
that is a really nice little helping hand.
Yes, because I did wonder, like, am I going to have to play like at least one run and get one of the coffins open? But no, it was perfectly happy to let us have the top row of characters. But yeah, we will be back next week, no doubt, with more stories of Vampire Survivors.
I'm sure.
But yeah, tell us what else you have played.
There's only really one other thing I've played this week of note to talk about, which is I finally got back to and finished playing through Thirsty Suitors, which is a game I talked about on this show a while back now. Thirsty Suitors is a hard game to explain from a genre perspective. It is a dating sim, turn-based RPG, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, cooking simulator, in which you play as, basically, a young woman in her early 20s coming back to her hometown, basically being like, hey, I had some fucked up relationships in my teens and probably hurt some people. I'm coming back to town to try and make amends and to sort out my own shitty past. Basically, what if Scott Pilgrim wasn't about, like, hey, nerdy white boy, please go handle all my exes, and Ramona was instead like, what if I went and had conversations where I acknowledged I was kind of a shitty ex, and and you also acknowledge that, and we, repair this somewhat, even if it's not like a relationship, we get on okay terms, through JRPG battles involving trying to elicit various kinds of emotions out of characters, based on what kind of taunts you think will effectively get them to have a response and open up.
Okay.
That game is very well written. It is fascinating. It is genuinely impressive how all of those very different genres I described generally mesh together into one cohesive experience. The skateboarding's a bit janky. The skateboarding's a bit janky.
It looks fun, though.
It's serviceable. It's not a problem. I didn't do more of it than I needed to. I wasn't hanging around to do extra skateboarding missions because fuck that, it's a bit janky.
Is it better or worse than Skateboard?
I found this more manageable than Skateboard.
That's good.
Yeah. But yeah, things that I think are interesting about this game, very exaggerated over-the-top presentation, but that doesn't let so random, exaggerated things get in the way of telling a good, grounded story. I think they did a fantastic job with writing all of the X's and the writing about the relationships that the main characters had with these people in a way where by the time you're done with most of them, you go, neither of you was blameless in this bad relationship. And it's hard to be entirely mad with either of you or entirely forgiving of either of you. And I think that really works because it makes that sort of uneasy truce that these characters come to feel very believable.
Was this the game with the possible cult going on?
Yes, this was the game with the possible cult going on, and I don't know who was under the weird skateboarding bear helmet, because the choices I made apparently led to an uprising of the teens throwing out the cult leader. Yay. So I don't know what his deal was. Apparently there were endings in which I might have found out more about that, but
that's an excuse to play it again, perhaps?
Yeah. Having played through this game, it reminded me a lot of the game Venba from earlier in the year, which was a game about cooking and its relationship in families and using Cooking Mama style minigames to progress a narrative. Here they used a lot more to be a vector for conversation. It's you would do a lot of these Cooking Mama style minigames and have little bits of dialogue in between the steps of the cooking, and that was sort of how you open up relationships with your quite closed-off mother, because there's sort of a layer of an activity between you, and I thought that was a really nice choice. I like that it portrays positive endings to reconciling bad relationships that don't have to end up with, we still want to date, and there are degrees of middle ground between we hate each other and don't talk, and we should get back together. I think that the game does a very smart job of holding room for people to be upset and to go, I am ready to not be angry at you about what happened, but I am allowed to still be hurt by it.
Yeah.
And be mature about that. Funny, sweet, very emotionally engaging game. I've never known a game have a summonable lesbian aunt that does a bodybuilding montage as a summon attack. That's fucking great.
Game of the year.
If someone really disappoints you, you can summon your mother in, who will come in with a flip-flop ready to hit them. Much like the in-game relationships, the game is a little rough around the edges, a little janky. There's some awkwardness involved and some decisions that maybe didn't pan out perfectly. But at the end of the day, it's worthwhile, and I'm glad to have experienced it.
A relationship.
Yeah, much like the messy relationships in the game, I feel very similarly about the game itself. Well worth playing, even if you need to be willing to put up with a bit of kind of janky skateboarding.
Still better than Skateboard.
Yeah. But that's I think everything that's worth talking about that I played this week.
Well then.
Time for this.
Like, you know how big companies like Supremacy Software make like loads of money,
Yeah.
but they're terrible and stuff?
Yeah.
What if I was also that and could make money like they do?
But, like, you don't know how to make, like code games or stuff, do you?
Well, like, I can make in-engine videos and stuff. That's how I make all those videos of the guy with the urinal for a head.
Oh, yeah, the what's it not toilet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I do that. Well, I was thinking maybe, like, I could put, like, a bunch of videos together of, you know, I built that big city.
Oh, yeah.
Like, use
I said build, you got all those asset store assets and put them together.
Well, yeah, I put them together like Lego, and therefore I built them. Yeah. You know, I made that city, and, you know, what if I did, like, a bunch of videos of, like, some zombies or something? I could, like, do an overlay or something, make it look like
a HUD.
there's, like, like a HUD, like there's gameplay and stuff involved, and, you know, get everyone really hyped for it, and maybe I could make 7,000 new Steam accounts in order to wishlist my own game, and then I sell my most wishlisted game on Steam for like a day and run away.
You say game?
Yeah.
Pre-rendered video?
Well, I did the first video of how to make a first-person game in Unity, right?
Oh, I see.
So they will be walking around in it, but there's nothing there and no one there.
I mean, it is technically a game. I don't see why you couldn't.
I mean, there's so much other crap on Steam.
I think that's a foolproof plan and could never backfire on you.
Yeah. Money. This is a public service announcement brought to you on behalf of Service Announcements for the Public. So, you've been told that a word or phrase you use is problematic. Here is a guide to handling this. Let's say someone messaged you on a social media to tell you that a word or phrase you used in one of your public broadcasts was problematic and is no longer okay to use. Perhaps hasn't been for some time. Should I get defensive about it? No, absolutely not. Why not instead try thanking the person for pointing this out to you? Is that all I need to do? No, it's time to do some follow-up. Perhaps do some research. Look around to find out more information about the thing you have just been told. Perhaps learn some history. Look to people who are perhaps the target of such slurs or problematic phrases. So remember, don't get defensive. Be less offensive. Learn and grow. See it as an opportunity. Just because your granny said it all the time doesn't mean it's okay. In fact, given my granny, it's probably more likely that that's the quickest way to tell it was problematic in the first place. So, what have you put in your eyes?
We put some films in our eyes.
We sure put some films in our eyes.
We sure had.
I wonder how many of these are going to be allowed to go in the list of things that are happening in this episode.
Yeah. So let's get the least recommendable of these out of the way. Let's talk about Evil Bong 2.
Sure is another Evil Bong movie.
Yeah, we talked about Evil Bong a while back. It's a very bad horror film about a magic bong that if you smoke it too much, you get sucked to the bong dimension where your hands might get eaten off by an evil bra that's like a shark. Oh no, it ate your hands. This is a sequel in which all of the characters from the first one are now afflicted by supernatural versions of side effects of weed.
Apart from the nerd.
Except for the nerd. I think because he just did it the once. He didn't get like...
He did it once, he didn't inhale.
He didn't inhale, of course, yeah. So characters infected with the munchies and paranoia and insomnia and... Narcolepsy. This film is not one I'm going to recommend in terms of, like... You've got to give caveats for things that are a little iffy in it. Like,
it's not good bad.
The character with the munchies is portrayed in a, like, very exaggerated fat suit and fat makeup, and, like,
Yes. And that is just an excuse for another character to just lay into them for being fat for, like, 5 odd minutes.
Yeah, and there's... you know what, I will say this. It dodged some of the problematic landmines I thought it was going to land on. When, in order to go solve the curse, they have to go to... we've got to go to South America and find the tribe in South America. I was fully ready for...
ready for us to turn this film off.
Yep. And then it was like, okay, you've made it a tribe of white women. I guess that sidesteps some of the ways this could have gone wrong. It's not a good film.
No.
But a couple of days later, I am still giggling at the thought of a man.
I'm a
doobie! Help, I'm a doobie! Just a man rolled up in a tiny joint, very terrified that he's a joint now. I do laugh at are you okay, bro? No, I'm a doobie! It's ridiculous, and I wouldn't recommend it.
No.
It was some stupid times.
There are 6 more of those fucking films.
There are 6 more of those films. I don't know how you escalate beyond this point.
Fuck no.
It's a series of films that I don't think they're good, but to watch them with some drinks with some friends can be a God, what decisions are we making now?
Especially when you and that group of friends largely base your movie watching decisions around what are the worst possible films we could watch.
Yeah, what is a film that, like, it's going to be a real coin flip whether it's good, bad, or bad. We walk that line sometimes.
Yes.
You know what film weirdly fell on the other side of that line and was way better than it should have been? The Scrotum.
Surprisingly.
The Scrotum was surprisingly artsy.
Yes, in just the weirdest ways. Like, there were weirdly artistic shots. There was bizarre music choices that really worked, but also, like, don't work with yourself.
Yeah, so the gist of this, it's I will say, I think it works that it's not too long, this film. It's about an hour. Yeah. It is a horror film where some toxic waste gets poured in a river, and man and his girlfriend have gone camping, and she's like, I won't suck your dick, you didn't shave, go shave in the river. And toxic waste goes
into the smoking lake with a cutthroat razor.
Yeah, accidentally cuts his balls, and now he's got toxic waste in there, and his testicles are murderous.
Yes, and I spent like 5 odd minutes making like new bottom surgery jokes. Just dropped.
I mean, you made those jokes, and then a very, very graphic scene of you bottom surgery just dropped occurs.
Yeah, if you are even thinking about watching this film, and that sort of thing might disturb you.
I did have to close my eyes for a good 45 seconds. But yeah, like, for a film with that kind of stupid premise of there's 2 testicles in the woods trying to murder people.
2, you say?
2, I say. That's usually the number they come in. That's often the number they come in. But yeah, there were big long stretches of the film that had no dialogue and really pulled off having no dialogue.
Yeah, did a good job of, like, not doing that thing in a horror movie where the main character feels the need to talk to themselves just so that it isn't too quiet.
It felt like the film was willing to give a breathing room to its moments that so few, particularly like comedy horror films, are willing to do. Like, as you alluded, there was a musical sequence that was when I try and describe it, it's going to sound nonsensical. A fight between a woman with a hedge trimmer and a testicle set to a classical music soundtrack for several minutes, with no dialogue and no sound effects of the fight, just the classical music.
Yeah, there's like a full aria going on in the background, and the scene is like sponsored by Manscaped. It's the hedge trimmer.
It's so good though. That scene. Yeah,
like clearly, somebody has some incredible talent for cinematography.
It genuinely is a film made by people who have studied filmmaking and know the rules well enough to fuck around with them.
Yeah.
Which, like, I did not expect that to be, like, one of the genuinely good recommends of the night of stupid horror.
I did have to laugh at the fact that there's a person, like, very early on in that film sitting on a toilet reading a copy of Lloyd Kaufman's Make Your Own Damn Movie, which is a book about making films on no budget.
Yeah, and they very effectively do that here.
Yeah.
Like it's very clear where they learned this art from.
Trauma.
Yeah. So other things we watched a horror film called Slaughterhouse,
We did.
and I think that film is great.
That puppet is awesome.
It
That
is-
is a
it is-
really good sloth
It
puppet.
is such a good, it is such a well articulated puppet. The shifting facial expressions that sloth is capable of.
Yeah, like part of me seriously doubts, given the size of it, that there's all that much in the way of like electronics or motors. I suspect all of that is like mechanical and hand
I
puppeted.
feel like that is the case. I agree with you. The gist of this one was pretty simple. A sloth gets poached from jungle. A member of a sorority house ends up getting the sloth to have as like house mascot to try and become like head of the sorority. The sloth goes on a murder rampage for reasons, and I thought this film was delightfully fun.
Yeah. I was initially like thinking it was a bit like eye-rolly and silly in a not necessarily great way, but I think the thing that just completely won me over was taking a selfie with the girl who just unplugged from the fucking life support machine and captioned it like #KillerSloth.
Yeah. So, like, here's the thing. The film walks a line for a while of, is the sloth doing things a so-inclined sloth could reasonably do? Like, there's a little bit of like, the sloth moved the computer mouse and saw something on the computer. That's a little surprising. But by the end, it's like, no, don't expect real-world sloth rules. This sloth is, I wouldn't have been surprised if the ending of the film had been, oh, that's a man who was trapped in a sloth body by a witch. Like, but that film goes from, like, silly, light-hearted comedy with the threat of something bad might happen to genuinely exciting third act horror of, like, you are trapped in here with something truly deadly, and, like, they do the gradual climb to that point, I think, really well.
It's some of the like shot decisions in that kind of remind me of that era of like parody horror movies of your scary movies and your not another teen movie type things.
Yeah.
Like the scene where like is it like lightning striking outside and they keep being like
Yes.
lightning flashes, and there's this woman lying on the floor of the room in the sorority house, in the dorm room, and like at first it's like the sloth is like on the top bunk, then it's like hanging off the side of the bed, then it's down the stairs, then it's down the ladder, then it's right on top of her, now it's behind the wardrobe.
It's not an entire film of that vibe, but it knows how to use the jokey sensibilities of those old parodies to lighten the tone just enough during the heavier moments.
Yeah.
It's
We both firmly planted our flag in, we want the lesbian to survive.
oh god, yeah.
Right at the
No.
beginning of this.
Yeah, 5 minutes into that film, I'm like,
You're the best character.
You're the best character. You in your flannel with your katana, you are the best. Go brew your craft beers in your dorm room or whatever.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And then, last film to discuss of that batch is one I'd been meaning to see for ages.
I've never even heard of this.
Yeah, so Willy's Wonderland
Yes.
is the unofficial knockoff of Five Nights at Freddy's.
It's One Night at Willy's.
One Night at Willy's. But the thing... So I knew it starred Nicolas Cage, was in a Five Nights at Freddy's knockoff. What I didn't know is that Nicolas Cage doesn't say a single word in the fucking film.
And that's brilliant.
And that's perfect. He is one of the only actors I think could have pulled that nonsense off and made it work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple premise. It's just, here's the place that's full of animatronics and they killed some kids and it got shut down and there's a tourist trap being set up to, like, feed visitors to the robots or whatever.
Because otherwise they might kill everyone in the town.
Yeah, it's an uneasy alliance. We'll give you people that you can eat if you don't eat us, scary animatronics. And Nicolas Cage says, I refuse to be the victim in this horror film.
Look, Nicolas Cage was sent in there with a, hey, I will repair your car and give it back to you in the morning if you clean my terrifying restaurant.
And take regular breaks.
And he both cleans that terrifying restaurant and takes regular breaks.
I think the best way to sum the tone of this film up is big action scene where robot is violently murdered, and then 5-minute scene of Nick Cage just gently cleaning the place where he killed the robot that he already cleaned 5 minutes ago in a montage, but he's like, fine, now I'm gonna get oil off of the urinals again. It is such a fun film. I think that the animatronics, while, they're clearly they use a bit more CGI than would be ideal, they have clear personalities and they set world building up quite quickly. And
there are some practical effects in that.
Oh, definitely. There are some practical effects. There's
clearly some stuff that they just couldn't manage.
Yeah. One animatronic is clearly just a woman in a mask.
Yeah.
Which is some of the choices are a little, not the best, but the overall package is a masterpiece.
Yeah. Brilliant. That is a truly good bad movie.
It is the pinnacle of what that kind of film can be. I
hear it's better than Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, infinitely so. But yeah, I think the less you know about it going in, the better. It is a very fun ride, and knowing that Nicolas Cage is going to go the entire runtime without saying a word is a magical thing to know.
Yep.
Yeah. What about you? Did you watch anything else this week?
No, that is it from me.
Well then, time for this.
Hey, Laura.
Yes?
We've got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, do you want to receive things?
What, in the post?
In the
and stuff?
post, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's that time of year. Stuff's arriving at the house sometimes.
And do you find that sometimes the service involving the receiving of things isn't always the best?
I've known better than sometimes recently where things have not arrived as they were meant to.
What if there was a service where they would guarantee a time slot?
Oh.
And not an all-day time slot, an hour time slot.
Oh, that would actually be very helpful.
Right? What if they would then guarantee that the person would knock on the door and wait?
And not just pretend that they knocked on the door,
Yep.
but actually do it.
Yeah, and also, if there are multiple sources of alert person inside house, they would be doorbell, ding-a-ling, door knocker, knock knock.
And would they wait for enough time for me to actually get to the door?
They will wait for at least 3 minutes.
My God, this is a genius service. Who or what is this? How do I do this?
This week's sponsor is postofficepro.lol.net.
I might actually get the service that I sort of expected as a baseline.
Yeah. that now don't look too heavily into how much it costs to send anything through Post Office Pro, but if you are willing to pay a premium of 60 grand a year, then you can guarantee that you will get the best possible postal service, and you're going to get your post every time.
That is pretty pricey.
If you're willing to pay for the Premium Pro Post Office Pro, then you will actually have a person who will come to your door with your package, and if you're not in, they'll just stay there. They'll just camp on your doorstep until you arrive. Yes, no going to the post office, nothing. You're just gonna have your package.
I mean, that sounds pretty pricey, but the alternative is currently having to deal with post not showing up when it's supposed to. So I guess.
Or they'll throw it in a lake that's in the same town as your house.
In the same town. They've improved recently. It used to be same county.
Oh, that was Hermes.
Ah, very different company.
So that's postofficepro.lol.net. Enter the code Q&PS 287, and you can get 5% off your first 10-year subscription.
That's quite a commitment.
No, it says bargain. You have
Sorry,
to
that's a bargain. That's quite a bargain.
Yeah, I think they'll sign off on that. Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi. So, I've been trying to think of ways we can make even more money.
Right.
I love making
I
money.
love money.
I love making more money.
Yeah.
So, I've been trying to think of, something we could sell in Call of Duty, some kind of power-up that would be worth charging, like, more money than we've ever charged before. Like, I'm thinking, microtransactions, no, macrotransactions.
Wow.
And, like, we gotta really offer some competitive advantage to make this work.
Right. So I would be concerned, though, that if we're talking about macro versus microtransactions, that we are going to need quite a lot of content that sounds like
no. I've been cooking something in secret for a while.
Right.
And look, it's a little out there. I'm gonna need you to follow me on this one.
Right.
What if we make like a special move or a power up or a grenade type or something that you can buy that there's no good way for me to say this. It's gonna do a bunch of flashing lights and maybe give someone on the other team a seizure.
Right.
'Cause my thinking is
they won't be able to beat you in game if you
they're
have
on the floor.
Literally killed them.
Right. So, like, your chances of winning are going to be considerably higher if your opponent dies.
Right.
That is probably worth a lot of money.
Right.
I do need to talk to legal about if we're liable if we do this. Because, like...
No, we can't be. Because we have that whole thing that comes up for, like, half a frame at the start when it's like, this game may contain flashing images.
Yeah. It might trigger photosensitive stuff. It like torture your doctor. It's on them, not you. Not us.
It's their fault.
Well, like that's
they had to sign the EULA. It was definitely in the EULA.
So the only bit of maths I'm doing, and like I'm pretty sure it works, is if someone has a seizure, they're not going to buy more DLC for the game. So it is going to cost us some income there.
Right, but we do not have to output any of the cash they've already got saved in our system.
Well, yeah, and I'm thinking we charge, enough for these seizure-inducing grenades or whatever they are. We charge, like $100 a grenade.
Right.
That'll probably eclipse what, person having a seizure would have spent, I reckon.
How about this? We wall off the epileptic whales, but we keep the epileptic poors who've just been doing like the free game.
I don't know. I don't think people are going to buy $100 grenade if they don't know that there's a real world chance of it.
They don't know. They don't have to know, and that's our back end figures.
Well, I mean, look, if they throw that grenade and no one on the opposite team stops moving, then they're going to feel a little ripped off.
Maybe a bot or two. How about then if it's not just a seizure thing? What if it also like messes with like people's hearing and I don't know, sense of taste and other things? Is there anything like, can we put a subliminal message in that like makes people's ears bleed or something?
I mean, we could probably get the dev team to get working on it.
You are a fucking genius.
I know.
So, what have you put in your ears?
I've not listened to a lot of new stuff this week. I've been doing a lot of writing, so I've not been listening to a lot of new music. I listened to one new bit of music this week.
Yes?
A track called Candleburn. And apparently what I listened to was the Dawn demo of the track by a band called Rabbitology. It's a very staccato, like, intricately sort of bouncy kind of song. Largely plucked guitar with a little light percussion. But the thing about the sound of it that I was really caught by is that it has this very fast, sort of dancing, quickly read femme vocal line that is really catchy. The way that the vocals are like isolated words that have a lot of sort of precision to how they're delivered very quickly is really fun. About this sort of expectation that's drilled into women that they shouldn't ambitiously reach for opportunities that might be in their grasp. That sort of show restraint, that's not for you attitude that can be used as a sort of restrainer of female ambition, which is a good, interesting track. Other than that, it's mainly just been looking back at my list of most listened to songs this year.
Yes, it's been that time, hasn't it?
It's that time of year, the aggregation of what were you listening to. And I don't have a lot to say about these, but I'll give some recommendations of the things that were the sound of my year, apparently. Love from the Other Side by Fall Out Boy, which was their first...
That was a new one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the first single when they sort of came back after a while, and that song is catchy as hell. It's got, like, you could see it being like in an anime opening kind of energy to it. It's bombastic, it's exaggerated, it's not taking itself too seriously. I love that track a lot. I listened... So, at some point, I think it was this year, We Are OFK came out, which was a sort of narrative adventure game about a group of people trying to start a band, and each episode had a song in it, and those 5 songs ended up being the debut EP for a real band called OFK. And all of the tracks off of that debut EP, all of the tracks from OFK, all made it pretty high up on my most listened of the year. They are really good, creative, interesting tracks, and using like an hour to an hour and a half of narrative to set up and contextualize each track really gave me a big emotional investment in that music. It was a really good way to get me invested in a debut of a band.
May I ask, as someone who doesn't use Spotify, what was your most played MCR track this year?
Foundations of Decay is the next one I was about to get to in the list.
Well,
apparently Foundations of Decay is still exactly what my brain is craving in the MCR realm. I've not yet soaked all of the the dopamine out of that one to the kind of degree that I have with tracks that have been around a decade longer. I listened to a bunch of No Children Ska by Sad Snack, which is a ska cover of a Mountain Goats song.
Okay.
That is, like, the original song is quite, it is a song about quite a bitter, like, ending of a relationship, and having a relationship that ends in such a place that you kind of hope for nothing but the worst for the person. And that transposed into upbeat ska is fascinating. I fucking love this, like, I want to have a dance to it while singing about, like, I'm drowning, there's no sign of land, you're coming down with me, hand in unlovable hand, but you're doing your little knees up. It's a great cacophony of energy. And the last one that I hadn't listened to in ages and has, like, I absolutely used to love this track and it shot back up this year, was Monsters by Super Powerless. Super Powerless was a one-person band that existed like a decade ago, making sort of chiptune-based music, who made one fantastic, wonderful album about, like, struggling with mental health, and it's one of my favourite albums of all time, and then Britain's Got Talent fucked the guy over, and he lost his passion for making music. And Monsters is the title track off that album, and I still think that track is a masterpiece. I fucking love it. If you've never heard that album, go check out Super Powerless. Go look up the album Monsters. I think it's well worth a listen. What about you? What have you been listening to?
Well, since I finally finished my listen through of all of Welcome to Night Vale, all 239 episodes, I am up to fucking date after all this time. Gosh knows when I will get back to listen to it, but I now have time to listen to other things. So I've caught up with a bunch of the new season, or the most recent season of the SCP archives. Some highlights of the ones I've listened to so far. I am not yet up to date, which is nice to have a bit of that kicking around if I'm feeling in the mood for much of the same stuff at the same time. So the first one is SCP-7776, The Unwell. It's about a fairly remote village where all of the villagers are engaged in some quite horrendous practices, and it turns out the reason why is that if they don't perform these practices, there is a creature that lives down the well that will get closer to coming to the surface, and it can basically bend reality, and everything ends up a bit like a horrifying Bethesda game. So people can clip into each other or through the floor, and things will get run into each other. There'll be, like, blood raining from the sky, and like, time glitches and reality-bending stuff. So, but basically, anyone who gazes upon the well even once, after about 48 hours, they will start to have visions of a ceremony that could be performed in order to keep this thing down the well. Because although they're doing horrible things, the thing that happens when they let it go on is far, far worse. And it's a fascinating story that takes place over, like, a really long period. There's, like, ancient knights who went there in, like, many, many centuries ago, and they were like, oh no, Christianity, they're doing these terrible pagan practices, and after about, like, 6 days of the sky raining blood and things getting worse and worse and worse, they're like, maybe we should have just listened to the villagers and their horrendous practices. We're never going to be able to come home, so just to let you know, we are here as guardians of the villages in God's name now. Yeah, and then, years later, the SCP Foundation basically doing the same thing as the Knights, and realising, no, we really need to just keep doing the horrible thing, and also no one else is allowed to come here, because if you know too much about the well, you might start to think about the well and be infected by the mimetic nature of it. The Unwell is a really fascinating story. Nomads of the Fourth Dimension Steppe is about... There's 8 tribes. They all sort of slide through time or exist at different time periods in the same place. There seems to be something binding them together. They have sort of a shared history, but some of them seem to remember it better than others. And maybe there is a reason they're all tied together, but they don't know it. And it's like fascinating story about, first of all, about just describing these 8 tribes that live seemingly on top of each other in time, occasionally crossing over, some of them being much more hated than the others. But maybe the reason certain people are doing certain things is because they remember something terrible and that has to be maintained. It's an interesting one. Yes. I will talk more on that later. I'm halfway through one called Meet Me in the Stars, which is fascinating. It's about an insectoid species that comes to visit the Earth, and maybe there's more to why they're so excited to meet humanity than they're letting on. They are fascinated little adorable hexapedal insects who are just fascinated that they found other life in the universe after all this time, even if they had to go to the other side of everything to meet us. And the only other thing I really want to talk about is Neon Inkwell.
Oh.
Do you know of Neon Inkwell?
Name is familiar. I don't know specifics.
It's a project from Rusty Quill.
Mm-hmm.
So the story that's happening at the moment is called Of That Colossal Wreck. I don't know how long it's going on for. It's written by Sasha Sienna and Jonathan Sims. So, it's got good people on it. And it is a story about a group of people who wake up aboard a seemingly empty seed vault ship in space. So, the seed vault that exists in the... yeah, so it's like that, but there's also these clones that kind of are all supposed to wake up together, and there's going to be a whole ceremony and things, and they're basically, I assume, designed to rebuild Earth somewhere out in the solar system so that humanity as a whole doesn't die. But it seems like, first of all, not everyone's waking up. Secondly, the ship isn't working properly. There's a lot of things that just seem to be generally broken, like the fire suppression system. There's a whole bunch of other people who are still in deep sleep that haven't woken up, but everyone's supposed to be waking up together. Everyone, or all of these new clones are basically implanted with memories to get them started. The Doctor very much knows they are understand doctoring and medical stuff, and they have a great understanding of that. But then you've got others who are like, I have to report to the captain. There's supposed to be a big ceremony, and then I report to, my captain. I can't necessarily do that because there doesn't appear to be anyone in charge here or any way of contacting anyone. And there's, I think, maybe 6 or 7 of them just wandering around this vast ship that is glitching out, breaking down, and possibly infested with something or other.
Ooh.
And it's fascinating because it does that kind of thing that Cube does of none of these people know really how they got here. They don't have a full understanding of themselves or any of their skills or anything. They just have sort of vague feelings about themselves. Then trying to sort of go on this possibly deathly adventure through a vast ship that doesn't work very well and might kill them all. There are... I've listened to the first 2 episodes. There is a 3rd episode up. It seems to be maintaining a weekly schedule. So if you're interested in some more spoopy stuff from Rusty Quill, maybe give it a try. Have you listened to anything else, Dale?
That's about it for me, I think.
Well then.
Time for this.
Hello. So, publicist, you there?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Well, yes. You're the one who's supposed to make me look good.
I'm trying my best, but you are not making it easy.
Well, I did scoff at anyone foolish enough to pay tax.
Well,
recently.
I mean, yes, you did.
Yes, I mean, they are fools. Tax people.
So ideas. We could do a little photo shoot if you went and did spent an afternoon serving food at a homeless shelter. We could take some photos, some sort of fake candid photos.
That sounds like the wrong kind of work. Now, the kind of work I do that keeps, that's my 20-hour day. The kind of work I do is I tell other people that they're not as good as me. And that the kind of work you're talking about sounds a bit too much like touching paws.
Well, you could, implement a profit share this year. That would probably get some good headlines.
What's that then?
You take a portion of the profit the company's made,
yes,
and give some of it to the people who did the work down in the lower down in the company rung, so they can share the profit.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
Okay, you could do a charitable donation.
Oh, like one of those tax write-offs. I do love writing off tax.
I mean, yes, but don't call it that in interviews. Just say you did it for altruism. Altruism.
No. Oh, you know what? I've just had a much better idea than anything you've ever thought of ever, because you're a pleb.
Okay.
So, what if I spent a fortune on advertising with one of my own companies? So again, all rolling back to myself. And it'll be a whole campaign of telling the poors to donate money to the other really much more poorers. I'll get all my celebrity friends on and we'll be like, oh, it's a very difficult time that we've made for you by, paying your government to run through all these tax cuts for me. So give money to that person who can't eat and doesn't have a house because I bought all the properties and now I'm renting them back to you as Airbnbs. Can you just polish that up a bit and get it off the ground for me?
I think no matter what I say, you're going to do that anyway.
Yes, I am, because I'm a genius. Right, off for lunch with Elon.
Right, welcome everyone. Quiet down, all. I've called this press conference to make a statement as the head of the political party, and I would like to make it officially known as a party that we share your concerns and we are working on a solution.
Prime Minister, what are you looking for a solution for?
Your concerns. We share them and are working on a solution.
But which concerns in particular?
Your concerns.
Mine?
Yes, yours.
Okay.
Your concerns.
So,
as a person who can vote in this country, your concerns. We're working on a solution for them. We share them.
Right, so you can make sure that I get home in time to pick my kids up from school?
Everyone, we share your concerns. We're not going to say exactly what that means, but assume it's the thing you, listener, specifically want. We share your concerns and are working on a solution. Thank you. No further questions about what that means that we share your concerns.
Prime Minister.
Your concerns, we share them.
Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Social Justice Warriors.
Social Justice Warriors?
Yeah.
All right, Larry.
All right, Barry. How you doing?
Oh, mate, the winter malaise is sinking in. We've had surprisingly few hours of natural daylight. But,
middle of the day feeling like the middle of the night a bit.
I mean, to be honest, it didn't even get to the middle of the day today before I could barely see anything without all the lights on.
Yeah.
You doing all right, mate?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Festive period's approaching, and had a few people who, it didn't do so in any ill harm, but were like, you see the family over the festive period,
Right,
and sort of, you know, ask, the assumption being that, like, definitely going to involve your family to some degree, and you know, got me thinking about the fact that, like, there's a lot of like assumption and pressure that, like, this time of year will involve family. A lot of people who just sort of take that as a given without realising that, like, that's really not everyone's situation entirely, you know?
Yeah, I think, you know, people get hooked on this whole thing of what the festive period should be, and, you know, in their mind they have, you know, those... you know, the movies they watched as kids as, you know, a large extended family all together, and you know, a huge amount of expense spent on food and gifts and for things for people you barely know, and stuff like that. You know?
Yeah, there's a lot of assumption that, like, the things that are traditions for you, all that make, you know, the festive period what it is for you, apply to everyone. And you know, it's important to sometimes stop and go, like, you know, maybe not everyone, you know, maybe the festive period isn't about gifts for someone because of their financial situation, or it's not about family because of, you know, whatever their family situation is, or, you know, maybe it's not about, you know, you don't know what, like, general life stuff someone's going on that might affect their holidays, or what, like,
some people have got trauma around the whole season, you know.
So I was going to say is, like, you know, trauma around the holidays itself is a thing, and, you know, Be open to the fact that, like, don't just assume, of course, you're doing blank for the holidays, because, you know, that can sometimes dig into some sore subjects.
Yeah. And, you know, and then also on top of that, you know, not demanding explanations from someone who just is not celebrating the way you are.
I don't do X, Y, or Z at this time of year and go, cool, I hope you're having a good time with whatever you're doing this time of year, you know.
Stay warm, stay safe.
Let it be what it is, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, mate, absolutely.
Yeah.
Fancy a hug?
Oh, yeah.
Good on, mate. Good on. Right, I think I'll go and pop the kettle on.
Oh, sounds good.
Nice. So, you do things, so many things on the internet. Where do people find all of your things?
Like, you can find the stuff I do at Laura K. Buzz pretty much everywhere. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills, Blue Sky, Mastodon, all the places. Just search Laura K. Buzz, you'll find all the things. There will be some end-of-year wrap-up and looking forward into the new year content coming, and probably a little bit of a quiet spell over the festive period as best I can, and I try and take a little bit of time to rest. But there's a whole year or multiple years worth of back content to find by just searching Laura K. Buzz. What about you?
Me, well, I don't have universal branding, but I can be found at Linktree, linkter.ee/Janiac, Janiac. You can find the t-shirts I design, the music I make. There's new music out as of today, at the time of recording. It's Tuesday, the 12th of December. Yeah. I know vaguely what's happening.
12th.
Yeah, there's new music out today. It's kind of weird lo-fi stuff. Check it out. It's over on the Bedroom Programmer SoundCloud. You can help support all of my bad decisions and all the things I make and help me feel creative and maintained at patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. For as little as $1 a month, you can keep me going, and much appreciated.
I love supporting bad decisions.
Well, I am your bad decision. Oh, you made a good decision. I love you.
I love you.
I'm going to have to say goodbye to them now.
Oh, okay.
So, will you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time, be a stranger.
Now back to smooching.